touch response section. This is a really cool section because the CS-50 is touch responsive. It is overall responsive, not key responsive. We don't have polyphonic aftertouch. We just have general aftertouch, and it's a mechanical function. When you press down the keys, you can feel it happening, which I think is fantastic. It really gives you that sensory feedback. And since the Yamaha CS-50, as opposed to something more modular, is really a performance synthesizer, it was really laid out in such a way to make it a really easy and pleasing to perform with synthesizer. And the touch response and the ability to have touch response is part of that. The touch response section is just 4 different functionalities, and I'm just going to run through them really quickly here. First, let's take a look at the level. It's very subtle, but it's not just on and off. There are varying degrees of it, which I'm not demonstrating very well with the level. You can actually demonstrate it better with other functionalities I'll show you, but here. So you can actually decide how loud a note you play is. So the level controls volume. It is basically the touch control controlling the output of the amplifier. There's also brilliance. Which is really cool because then with your pressure, you can control what the filter is doing. And you can boost it up with the overall resonance and brilliance. All of that filter opening and closing you're hearing is all just from the pressure that I'm doing with my hand. And the fact that it's not polyphonic really doesn't matter a huge amount. Obviously, if it were polyphonic aftertouch, you'd be able to get individual notes within a chord that was being played, opening and closing the filter. But in general, it really works well as an overall dynamic device and timbral control. We can do the same with the VCF. And you might just say, weren't you just working with the VCF? And yes, we were. But VCF is under the sub-oscillator heading in this instance, which is you are adding the low frequency oscillator to the filter. So you can play it in such a way that only in certain instances do you activate the LFO on the VCF. And you see these things, these are not switches over here. They're actually sliders. They're like rotator sliders. It's hard to explain, but they are controlling an amount. You have, when they're all the way down, that's the full effect. And then obviously different settings, and they're very smooth, generate different amounts. So you're able to get really subtle control as well. And this last heading, which is also under the sub-oscillator, is a VCO, which basically, this allows you to send the LFO to the pitch of the VCO through the touch on the keyboard. So in a way, yes, the CS-50 does not have an effective pitch control wheel as we normally know it. It does have a pitch control wheel, but it's not the same thing as, the wheels we're used to on other synthesizers like the Mini Moog or whatever. But you don't really need it because you can control that same effect through your touch. Now, admittedly, Yamaha did not put a huge amount of pitch control on the VCO through this effect. It's a relatively subtle effect. And that is the touch control section, which allows you to have a physical control over some of the functionality of the synthesizer, which is nice because so often we use voltage control. But in this instance, your physical touch is controlling the voltage control, and it allows you to, in real time, add nuances of control that suit you in the midst of your playing. And while you're playing, you can also be controlling the amount by moving these levers up and down. So it's very convenient and very expressive.